Le nom d'un club auto qui rembourse votre franchise en cas d'accident, vous pensez à qui? Roule prend le relais là où votre assurance auto s'arrête. Roule, le premier club auto qui profite à tous, à condition de ne pas passer à côté.
Welcome to Valencia for the first of two races in the Clio Cup Series. This is the combination of championships, all tilting towards the European title. And we come here with Anthony Gerardo on pole position from Alexander Finkelstein. And we'll see how the field unwraps. My name is Bruce Jones. Temperature outside, lovely, just under 29 degrees. Track temperature 31 degrees, but already at this point in the evening, things should start to fall temperature-wise, but for these drivers, it's a 25-minute race, so it's really not going to fall much in their time. But as ever in the Clio Cup Series, it's about having track position. This circuit, 14 turns in all, 4.4 kilometers, almost on the nose. And certainly that is going to be very, very busy out on the circuit. Many, many cars, many rows. We've got 4 championships, if you will. We've got the overall, we've got the junior class, we've got the challenger class, and the gentleman 2. And certainly leading one of those, the challenger class, that is Philippe Kunze, just been seeing his car, but going towards the front end of the grid. We're picking out the front runners. And Anthony Gerardo starting on pole position, so many years racing with great success in the Clio Cup Series, one of the most high-pressure formulae, because so many cars will be covered by just fractions of a second, and it really is super, super competitive. Always has been, always will. Renault have run single-make championships for a very long time now. The cars have changed, but the competition certainly has not. It's always tight. It's always competitive. And we'll see how it unfolds today. Anthony Gerardo, pole position alongside car number 23, Alexander Finkelstein. And a lot of these drivers have gained a lot of experience across the years. Certainly Anthony Gerardo has been racing these for a very long time, been racing Clios since 2018. What he doesn't know about them isn't necessary to know. Leading the gentleman class, glad we picked that one out, car number 10 of Michael Polderman. That's somewhat further down the grid, 25th position overall. Just going through the classes, the junior class, the best qualifier in that is Damiano Puccetti. He's starting 3rd. And we've already seen Kunze's car as well. He is leading the challenger class. There he is, 3rd on the grid. That's a very good qualifying position here at Valencia, I beg your pardon. I think of Renault, I think of French circuits. Right. What are they saying? It's 25 minutes. Keep it clean, keep it tidy. All the drivers will watch the other races as well, you can be sure. All the other categories, they're just trying to work out where the best places to pass. Into turn 1 seems tempting, but the track tightens up there. One of the best passing places is turn number 2, but at the start of the race, everyone will try every single possible place they can to see where they can gain positions. 14 turns up and down the slope opposite the pits. The pit lane, exit of the pit lane is the lowest point on the circuit going down into turn 1, but the climb up to turn 2 takes it to the highest point. Turn 6 is up high as well, but in between, up and down the slope, the circuit rides its way through the 14 turns. Brilliant view. If you stand on top of the pit garages, not the pit garages, the pit building, you can see every single stretch of track, and there are very few circuits in the world where you can still do that. David Puget, he's always at the front end of the race. He's starting 4th on the grid, and he's been had a couple of fantastic seasons. A few years ago, 2023, he was the European Clio Cup champion and the French title winner as well. So he's very much a platinum level driver at this category. But a lot of drivers come to the Clio Cup, and this is where they will remain. This is the racing they love. They love the competition. They love how close it can be. And certainly it is a category that's beguiling. Right, David Puget leads on points, 476 points for him, 405 for Gabriele Torelli. Torelli starting 1 position behind him on the grid. Then a bit of a gap, another 65 points back to, 75 points back to Anthony Gerardo. Gerardo's better placed on the grid. Well, he couldn't get any further forward. He's on pole position. And so it's about chipping away. We've still got more rounds to come, though. We've got These two here at Valencia, a pair at Paul Ricard the first week in October, and then Monza for the finale 2 weeks later. So those points gaps can certainly come down. And bear in mind, it's 50 points for a win, 42 for second, 36 for third. So suddenly that margin of 71 points between Puget in first and Gabriele Torelli in second means one little slip up from either of those, class victory or overall victory for the other, and those gaps will close up very fast indeed. Gael Castelli, fourth place, right on the tail of Gerardo in terms of points. And by the way, last year's champion was Gabriele Torelli. We've just been mentioning him. He's second in the championship this year, but that point differential is 71 points. So David Puget, who's starting just one place ahead of him in fourth place overall, he can keep his eye on him. And for Anthony Gerardo on pole position, his job is just to get away and see if he can get 50 points into his championship bank account. And Torelli would have been on pole position, but a time penalty, positional penalty, moved him down the order just a little bit to fifth overall. Gael Castelli, he'll be starting one position further back in number 127. A little bit of heat haze. You look up the track, as I said, it was nearly 29 degrees air temperature. Track temperature was 32.5 degrees. So it's a warm afternoon, as it has been the last few days here at the circuit of Ricardo Tormo. Very much built as a motorcycle circuit, and in fact, you look at the format, you can understand why. It twists and it turns. For racing cars, take a bit more track. Of course, they fill a little bit more. You have fewer chances to go anything more than 3 abreast, but don't think this field won't try. Oh, yes, they will. 25 minutes of racing ahead of us. Who's going to come out on top? Well, I simply can't tell you, but Anthony Gerardo has to have a very, very good chance indeed. There he is, pole position. Alexandre Finkelstein will start alongside him, slightly younger French racer. And for a lot of these drivers, they've done many years in Renault Clios, as I said. Finkelstein, for example, well, he's one of the more recent ones, only started effectively 3 seasons ago. But learning hand over fist, that's what it's all about. It's about also eking the most you can out of your Michelin tyres. The race may be only 25 minutes long, but how much of tyre life can you use? How much can you leave in the tank? There's another question. Calm before the storm, but the storm is a-coming. The boards have been shown to the drivers. The last crew off the grid, please. Packed field of cars. And bear in mind, there are other title battles to be considered within this. A lot of the drivers competing in certain championships as well as the European Series. So within this field, we've got drivers competing for points in the French Clio Series, Italian Clio Series, and we also have the Spanish Clio Series as well. And a lot of drivers spread their form across the various championships and are multiple title winners. Anthony Gerardo was the outright European champion in 2022. 2023, as I mentioned, was wasn't Anthony Gerardo, he was 2022, I beg your pardon. David Puget was European champion in 2023, and last year, as I mentioned, Gabriele Torelli. So they all know what it's like to win, but at the moment, it's David Puget top of the pile. Can he make it 2 titles over the space of 3 years? So he took a double title in 2023, looking to add a 2nd European title this year. Puget starts 4th on the grid. Get the heat in the tyres, not into the driver. That's always the message that goes to the crews. So round they go. Clio Cup racing, you can have a fantastic race, not even finish in the top 30. It's so super competitive, enormous fields of cars for the Clio Cup. And let's go down the grid. Anthony Gerardo on pole from Alexandre Finkelstein. Rangoni course from GPA Racing. 2nd row, Damiano Puccetti, and then David Puget, multiple champion, also for GPA Racing. And then Rangoni course have a 2nd car, Gabriele Torelli and Gael Castelli for Milan competition. And then the man himself, Nicolas Milan, will start 1 position behind. And Tosic showing a great spread of nationalities. Michael Polderman starts from 9th on the grid for AST competition. And British racer Westbourne Motorsport getting one of their cars near the front end. And then down the field we go, a range of names and colours and nationalities across the various classes. Not very few British drivers come and compete, but it's an increasing number across the European season. Ben Colburn has been going very well in the championship, so he's certainly one to look for, a bit further down the grid than he'd have hoped for. And again, some Guillaume Mayo, some of the top names, just not at the front end of the grid. Irish racer McGovern in there, dipping a toe in this very busy pond But just remember, we got the 4 different classes across this race. Overall, junior class, challenger class, and gentleman class. So battles within the overall battle, but for now we're going to concentrate on this mass field of cars as they get to take the start, and we'll see who gets down to turn 1 first, who gets out of turn 1 first, and then who leads once we start coming back down the hill out of turn 2, which on the opening lap is where an awful lot tends to happen. Still, we work our way down the grid. Indian racer down towards the back, so again the international appeal. And then right at the back, Philippe Kunze, who qualified well, but he took up a penalty. He's the challenger class challenger, but he's got a mountain to climb. 25 minutes won't be enough time, surely, to claw your way up from the back of this packed grid. Best part of 40 cars coming out to play. So the drivers have appraised the conditions. They'll have looked around. They'll have worked out who is close to me. How well do I know the other drivers? For Anthony Gerardo, here he comes, car number 5, coming down to line up on pole position. He's got one job to do, make a break from the front. Can he do so? Standing start. He puts himself almost perfectly into the position. Look at his grid slot, eking his way forward alongside Alexander Finkelstein. GPA Racing, their cars white with the sort of very, very bright yellow flashes down their wings. Always a tense time for the drivers. They'd have walked the circuit as soon as they got here. They'd have done practice sessions on it. They've done qualifying. And it's about seeing how they can make it work in the bit that really, really counts. Qualifying was important. This circuit isn't always easy to pass on. For these Renault Clios, it's rather easier than it is for the big GT cars. They take less space as a... You know, there is more space for them to go and play. But for Anthony Gerardo, left-hand side of your screen, pole position, alongside him, Alexander Finkelstein. On the right-hand side of our screen, the sign away from the pit wall. They have the best advantage going down to the first corner. For everyone else, it will be starburst formation as they try and work out where and how they're going to make passes, or more to the point, how they can possibly correct moments when other people have swung onto the bit of track that they want. The flag is waved at the back of the grid, waiting for the signal for the start. Waiting, 1, 2, 3 red lights. When we get to 5, then they'll go from red to green. But when? Nice tidy start from Anthony Gerardo. Looks like a pretty good getaway from Finkelstein behind. From 3rd on the grid, Puccetti looking as though he's going to try and shape up to see what he can do. Anthony Gerardo gets the job done, leading down to the first corner and challenging from row 3 and row 2, starting to mix up. And David Puget lost a couple of positions. He's trying to fight back up the hill. They come from turn 1. Oh, someone going so wide. They may need a ticket to get back into the circuit. But 1st and 2nd on the grid, 1st, 2nd and 3rd on the grid, keeping those positions out of turn 2 is always tricky. And it was 3 abreast with 2 of the cars in the battle for 6th place off the circuit. They all seem to come back on. There doesn't seem to be, well, I shouldn't have said, any contact. Immediately we have contact, and unfortunately a couple of cars off with the damage to the pair of them, dust kicking up in the face of everyone else in behind. They haven't got time to stop and pay attention because they're busy 2 and 3 abreast. The Renault Clio Euro Series just always entertaining, but this opening lap has been certainly very busy. However, for our pole starter, well, the start's under investigation, as you can see from the message. That is always standard procedure. Anthony Gerardo from Polo got the job done. Kept the lead. Challenge from Alexander Finkelstein. However, couldn't move on from seconds. Stays second. Everyone else behind trying to change position. Left, right and centre. The car's going out of turn 8, through the kink at turn 9. Now they have to kink to the right to turn 10 and then slow it right down to turn 11. Will everyone get their braking done? Or just about, maybe, but maybe not in optimum form there. Gerardo, Finkelstein, tucked in behind. Damiano Puccetti. Oh, he's got the pace, but he hasn't got the space. That's the unfortunate moment for him. Finkelstein just blocking where that red and white Art of Living Clio wanted to get going. Tucked in behind David Puget, Gael Castelli, and everybody else, I think I can simply say, in that equation. In the junior class, Puccetti, you can see the red background to his number. He's leading that, but Tosic has gained a couple of positions. He's only 3 places further back down on the track. Down the start, finish straight they come, nose to tail. Will there be any moves for position down into turn 1, possibly towards the tail of the field, but the first runners seem to be running in position. No, it seems to be the battle for 4th place that is getting very busy indeed. David Puget, there he is, tucked in behind Damiano Puccetti. Puccetti leading the junior class. That's the ones with the red backgrounds. Oh, Clio's going sideways already at this point in the race. It's not the best way to go, but if you're doing it to push deep, deep into a corner, that's what you've got to do. Gornal being pushed very, very hard indeed by Renault. Not getting track position though. Gornal hanging on. Very, very tight at the front. It's still Anthony Gerardo from Alex Finkelstein and Damiano Puccetti not pulling clear, but just simply staying up in front. David Puget still in 4th place overall. Gael Castelli 5th. Nose to tail. Just how we like it. Just double checking there isn't a little bit of damage on the left-hand flank of the car in 3rd place, but I think it's sort of okay at the moment. Might just be the way the light's catching the cars. So in the Challenger class, it's Renault leading the way. Car number 4. He's already been very, very busy in this race, locking up a little bit. Trying his hardest to catch Sam Gornal. Almost side by side over the curves. Very much side by side, and a better exit from the final corner means down the start finish straight. Surely Renault is going to pick up that position. Sam Gornal in the red and grey car will be on the outside line. I'm afraid he's probably going to have to cede position unless Renault goes too deep into the corner and runs wide on the exit. Am I Nostradamus? No, I never have been and still am not now. So no change of position in behind. No change at the front of the field. It's still Anthony Gerardo from Alexander Finkelstein. Oh, push and shove. I think those two words may be conjoined. Great racing though, isn't it? Here we are at Valencia. 4 kilometres around a lap, 4 kilometres, 0.005. Let's take a look back at the start. Pole starter Anthony Gerardo, left of your screen. Alongside him on the front row with the bright yellow flashes in his car, Alexander Finkelstein. In 3rd on the grid as they break away is the red, white and black car of Damiano Puccetti, and he does enough. There's a bit of a challenge from behind, but David Puget dropped a position, then gained it back, coming into 4th place, the second of the GPA racing cars. There it is, tucked in behind. And you could see how close. It was 2 abreast at all points on the circuit. A little bit of a shove here, and unfortunately it led to 2 cars going off the circuit and really wrecking their race. Other people behind just got a face full of dust and carried on. The Clio Cup Series, always exciting. We've only got 2 flying laps or 2 race laps on the board. We're about to complete number 3. But it's still the man who started on pole, Anthony Gerardo, at the lead of the race. Alex Finkelstein tucked in behind, and unfortunately tucked off the circuit. We have a faller. It's Robinson, and it took more than 2 to tangle. Safety cars off the circuit. They need to be cleared up. And for our race leader, not quite a second cleared, so he hasn't lost much of a lead behind the safety car, but everyone else can close onto the tail of the pole starter, Anthony Gerardo. Busy place to be. Any circuit with the Clio Cup, the Euro Series out here, the National Series, it's going to be busy. This was fraught at the start, but I would say remarkably clean. And this is a replay of why we ended up with cars off the track. Oh, well, it came in from way back, and didn't see the start of that incident. Hard to see the end through all the dust as scattered across the circuit. And one of the cars out was Robinson's car. And here is a replay. You can see, well, okay, cars going off to the left, off to the right, and it was a case of consequences. And I think the cars that got caught up in that were cars caught in other people's problems. Unfortunately, the laws of physics and cars colliding with each other, but as soon as you get to the point where they're having to have evasive action, then you end up with a greater level of consequence. So let's just run down the order as we look through the field. Anthony Gerardo started on pole position. Alex Finkelstein started from 2nd, and they are still 1st and 2nd behind the safety car. Leading car in the junior class, Damiano Puccetti in 3rd place overall. Previous champion, David Puget 4th, Gael Castelli, last year's champion. Sorry, it was Torelli who was champion last year. Castelli in 5th, and Tosic 2nd in the junior class in 6th overall. Now, cars with damage, but it's not surprising. There was clearly contact. That middle part of the lap, and can that front right wheel be removed? Or more to the point, can the bodywork be pulled back from where the wheel needs to be? So crews having to work really hard indeed. So a case of drivers keeping their focus at this point as Robinson's car is pulled clear of the gravel trap. Great job done by the marshals and the rescue crews there. And for the South African racer, disappointment, clearly. And I think he was caught up in someone else's accident. I don't think it was his making whatsoever. So there's Damiano Puccetti leading the junior class. Second in class is Nikolaj Tozic, so third plays sixth. And still waiting, obviously, for various other cars to be cleared up and removed from the circuit. So Gerardo, well, he'd have been in this position before. You don't become champion without leading a race. So he will certainly have had to control a restart many times before. So it's about using that experience. It's about everybody in behind, keeping the heat in the tyres. There is the Maserati safety car. What a safety car that is, sitting at the front of the field. But it now has picked up our race leader. Gerardo will know the clock continues to count down. We have a 25-minute race, but we've very nearly got through 9 of those minutes. We've got 4 laps on the board. The field coming down the hill through the kink at turn 3 to the tighter turn 4, where we saw the first of the contact on the opening lap with a couple of cars being spat wide. Nose to tail, exactly as it should be. Drivers trying to keep up with those ahead. Ready to maybe make a spring when it comes to the field being released when the safety car period comes to an end. And just going down through the classes, it's Aurélien René, who JSB competition. We saw his car on the grid. He's running 7th overall. He is leading his class. So a job very nicely done. And you have to go some way down to the gentleman class, down to Laurent Diazidous in 21st position overall. But he's got his class lead ahead of the driver who races with the name of Horn, in inverted commas. Long time runner in the championship. It's great to see some new faces starting to move up towards the top, but the top is where the cream is, and Anthony Gerardo has been that for a very large number of years in the Clio Cup, the French Championship, many a time, but he was European champion in 2022 and Clio Cup Italy champion last year as well, while being well placed in the European Series. So he's always someone you need to look for. Still the clear up goes on, but of course Anthony Gerardo's job isn't just to stay at the front of the queue and keep heat in his tyres, it's to take a look at the lights on the roof of the safety car. And this is the restart. Here he is. He hung back. I must have looked for a moment. Right, Anthony Gerardo leading away. As I said, he's done a restart many, many times. Alexander Finkelstein in second place. He started second, stays in second. Puccetti started third. He stays third. And Puget in fourth. Where will the place changes come? Well, not normally at turn 1. It's normally what happens when you go down. Oh, a bit of a mistake there from Finkelstein. This is a chance for Puccetti. He's committed to go up the inside. They push, they rub. And maybe David Puget will go around the outside of the pair of them. No, he hasn't quite. But who's going to come down the hill out of turn 2? And it's Puccetti. Wow, that was a protracted move into second place in the race. Is it going to be contact? Well, a little bit there. Oh, really tight. Finkelstein just giving a little bit of a rub to Puccetti as he tries to get back into second, but he'll be on the wrong side of the corner. No, he's managed to edge his way through. I thought Puccetti would just about be able to defend everyone else behind. Well, some are staying on the circuit, but Anthony Gerardo is saying, I thank you very much indeed, and he's pulling away in the lead of the race. He controlled the restart. He chose when he was going to hit the throttle. He chose to do it just as he came down the slope into turn 14. Others might have expected it before turn 14. The final corner of the lap is very tight, though. So you've got to be really, really cautious. But he controlled it nicely. That is the measure of a driver who's got experience in these cars, experience in racing. Just clear, just clear. That's all it's going to take. But we've had the little attempted shuffle from Puccetti, but he ended up back, got fleetingly into second place. back into third, back where he belonged, according to Finkelstein. Finkelstein in second. He's the one with the green flashes. David Pouget actually lost the position. Challenged fleetingly. I thought he might take the pair of them to go from fourth to second, but he lost the position back to fifth, and still behind. The attraction of gravel is something that's very, very intense. And for Polderman, well, I don't know how we got away with that, but I tell you what, he was all four wheels off the track, so that might be one for the track limit judges. God. You wouldn't think cars like this could be tail happy, but when you're pushing them so hard, you haven't got all the heat back in your tyres, you're trying to carry every bit of momentum you possibly can. It's always going to be tricky indeed. David Pouget, the end of the lap, 2.2 seconds clear. That's wonderful. And then down into the first corner, sideways, and surely there's going to be contact in evasion, in avoidance, but going sideways to the extent. And in fact, it's almost impossible to pick out some of the cars. They've gone so far wide off the track at turn 1, also at turn 3. But that was a scary moment. Number 1 going sideways down there. That was last year's champion, Gabriele Torelli. So he's a driver with experience, probably trying to gain a position. Maybe got a little bit of a push and shove. I was looking at the cars in front. I cannot tell you, but super competitive, the Clio Cup Series, and you have consequence. Still the bucking bronco ride through the gravel for those trying to get into the top 10. Intense, I think we can describe it. And while this is happening, Anthony Gerardo escaping in the lead of the race, and et al. This is the battle for third place. Who's going to be occupying it? Well, if you're occupying at this point in the lap, you're probably not going to be doing that a few moments later. But the person who gained was Nikolaj Tosic. He's moved up from 6th before the restart to 4th. David Pouget's moved up to 3rd. Finkelstein to 2nd. Gerardo in the lead of the race and pulling clear. Will the cars come back to him? What have we got left? 11 minutes left. Let's take it a replay. This will be the move. What happens coming down into turn 1? Look at the gaggle in the middle of your screen. It's battling outside the top 10. In the middle of that, number 1, given a push, round he goes. Doesn't do a full spin, but everybody else trying to work out where to go. Was that number 1 going to go sideways? Well, yes, but where was it going to end up? Across someone's bonnet. That was the big problem. As you can see, it's almost on a speedway circuit on the outside there. A couple of teammates just suffering. But all this has been good news for our race leader, Anthony Gerardo. Alexander Finkelstein still in 2nd place. He was the one in trouble earlier in the race on the restart, but everything else has settled down. And now, David Pouget nearly being pushed off at the first corner by Nikolaj Tosic. And he, in turn, has got Gael Castelli right under the rear of his car, and everybody else behind. René Puccetti, who lost out big time. Remember, Puccetti was 3rd here in the race. He is down to 7th. One little moment, and you lose a lot of ground. Wing mirror not quite as it's supposed to be, which isn't very useful when you're being attacked from all angles. But you just got to sort of imagine where the rivals are in a race like this, because it's super competitive, the Clio Cup Series. But certainly having a mirror that doesn't give you any option of seeing who's behind you on the right-hand side is going to trouble you at least half of the corners around this lap. There you can see in the background of the shot the problem, and it's David Pouget. Much he's done this many times. Control races, pot championships in his pocket, but that action clearly on the restart left him and his car with a little bit of contact, and he wouldn't have been alone in that. And meanwhile, among all of this, into the final 10 minutes of this race, there is a thing called track limits. Other cars also seem to have rather loose wing mirrors. It shows the heat of the battle, a little bit of front-end damage on some of those just outside the top 10. But here we are looking at the car in 3rd place overall. David Pouget, Tosic right behind him, and he's looking as though he's sparing battle scars as well in 127, and really trying to push on. Nikolaj Tosic, car number 11, looking as if he can gain a position here or there, but you know, sometimes you put your car on the outside and suddenly there is no more outside and you lose momentum. You've got to play a bit of a guessing game. It's a chess game, but it's a guessing game as well. 2.7 seconds the margin between 1st and 2nd between Gerardo and Finkelstein. He can control the race, Anthony Gerardo. It's a luxury that's seldom afforded drivers in the Clio Cup Series. It's rare to have this much of an advantage. 2nd place, Alexander Finkelstein. He's got the best part of a 2-second margin over the 3rd place car. Just going out of your shot, that's David Pouget. In behind him, you've got Castelli now ahead of Tosic. So that's been a little bit of a place change. But Tozic has now got back ahead of Castelli, so it's chopping and changing all the time. Blink and you'll miss something. There's Damiano Pagetti, car number 43. He was running comfortably in third position. He was the one that got monstered. You can see there's a front end of his car, the front right-hand corner, not quite as it left the pit garage at the start of this race. 7.5 minutes remain. The gap is now 2.8 seconds between first and second. They're about the only two cars in this race that aren't actually fighting anybody else tooth and nail. Almost every corner the dust kicked up as cars trying to make the shortest line around this circuit. Oh dear, someone's had a moment. Someone picking it up and going in the right direction all over again. And that was Bordaccini. Did he jump or was he pushed? You never know. Just looking to try and work out where any moves. Nikolaj Tozic, been looking at him. He's at the sharp end of the field. He's running in 5th position overall. Just lost a place to Gael Castelli, but he's still leading his particular class in this race. Oh, well, here's the moment. This is what happened to Bordaccini. And that cost him a lot of places, not surprising. David Puget, well, it's more streamlined with your door mirror flapping up against the window, but it doesn't help you see who's attacking, and the attack is coming all the time from Gael Castelli, car number 127, right under the rear of Puget. And Castelli really has to fancy his chances. If he's clever, he'll go, I'll wait until I'm attacking going into a right-hander if I want to go up the inside, because Puget won't be able to see me. His door mirror not effective. Of course, he could use his rear-view mirror, but he's got his hands full. At this circuit, your hands are full the whole time. 14 turns in 4 kilometers. You're chopping and changing direction pretty much every handful of seconds. But Puget, he's been there. He's done it. Castelli, nobody's fool. He's looking to see where he can make his moves. He was racing GT4 last year. He was an Alpine Cup champion years before that, and he's picked up other titles. French Porsche champion, French Seat Copa champion a very long time ago. But anyone who wins a championship, they've got something about them. Maybe he can gain a position. Almost seems rude to mention Anthony Girardo. 2.7 seconds clear, controlling the race. Alexander Finkelstein in second place, got 2 seconds margin over David Puget. And as you see, Puget has been fighting with that door mirror that's hanging loose. The real battling is further back. There goes Girardo, bottom of screen. Second place, here he is, Alexander Finkelstein. Started second, stayed second, but he certainly was challenged on that restart a while ago. Clock counts down, just over 5 minutes remaining. And surely Anthony Girardo can pick up another victory to add the many, many that he's picked up across the years, across the various Renault series. He's only had 2 wins so far this year. One at Magny-Cours last time out, and before that at Imola. So he'd quite like to add another here at Valencia. We'll have to do it all over again tomorrow, but you can't guarantee you'll always be at the front end. There's the disappointed Gabriele Torelli. Well, that's a big shame. Well, he's employed it. Well, mixed emotions for him, but unfortunately parked out of the race. And he's always someone who's at the front end. He was last year's champion, don't forget. So for him, it's not quite so glorious this year. The battling all the way down the field. Still that charge up the hill and down the hill. That's the very nature of this circuit. Lobachev going a little bit wide, but just able to hold his position just outside the top 10. That's Lebeda and Lobachev. Stuckel just tucked in behind, 11th, 12th, 13th for them. Still doing as Clios have done over the years, the tighter corners. You see the inside rear wheel lifting off the ground very lightly. Second place, third place, I mean, still David Puget, still being pushed and challenged by Gael Castelli. Round they go. Any little slip up, though, you can see a big gain a couple of laps ago, but then actually went out the other way because Puget was able to respond to the challenge from Castelli, but he's still going to have to fight hard for another, probably about 4.5 minutes. We've only got 3.5 minutes left in the race, but of course you'll have to fight all the way round to the end of the lap. That's it. This is the corner you need to move. No, not quite close enough. Attack on the side where the door mirror is flapping. It'll give you half a chance. However, David Puget is not going to offer the other half of the chance. That's what Gael Castelli knows, but they'll have raced across the years against each other. And they'll know know each other very well. Do I trust him? Do I not? That's always the question. Out of the final corner they come, turn 14, but it looks a neat, tidy exit from David Pouget, and no chance that there will be a challenge from behind unless we see Gael Castelli doing the last of the late breakers. You don't do that with a lap or so to go. You might make a risk on the final lap, take a risk, see if you can gain a position, but you know full well you could end up off the circuit. Well, both those cars well off the circuit, and a couple of cars are on final warnings at the moment. Nobody in the top few positions, though, in recent moments have had a final warning. Seems to be those a little bit further down the order. It's all well and good gaining a few. Gain one more than you're allowed and you will get time penalties. Laurent Diaz-Adus leading the Gentleman Cups class. In fact, he is on his final warning. I think I'll give him a warning that he's getting a warning. Oh, it's super tight. One little slip wide and things go terribly wrong here, and you could be given a little shove off the circuit. But Anthony Girardo's got enough in the bank. He stayed between roughly 2.5 seconds clear for a long time now, ahead of Alexander Finkelstein, who's got a similar margin, almost identical margin, back to third place, which is still this man, David Pouget. And actually, the attacking 127, Gael Castelli, suddenly had half a bit of breathing space, but suddenly Nikolai Tozic closes in behind and puts the pressure back on. First and second out of the bottom of our shop. Here comes third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh and eighth. Very, very close indeed. Castelli in fourth place, really pounding the pressure onto David Pouget. But Anthony Girardo cruising at the front of the field. He makes it look like that. He's so smooth, but the good thing for him, nobody is that close. He's got a 2 and a bit second margin over Alexander Finkelstein, who's got a similar margin back to David Pouget. We've got a minute to go, so this will be the start of the final lap of the race, unless my maths is skew with. Just under 2 seconds, so Finkelstein closed a little bit on that lap. Pouget's doing a fantastic job holding on to third place. There he is, running wide again. They'll have to watch out. More final warnings are being issued. And David Pouget in third place has just picked up his final warning. He cannot afford one more run wide over the curbing. Now, let's take a look. Wow. I said these cars like to cock a wheel. That was 3 wheels off the ground before coming back to terra firma. That's certainly the quickest way around the corner, but trying to correct it when you land is rather difficult indeed. So that replay, very spectacular indeed. Talk about, I said it's difficult to land, most certainly, and when you're landing on track that's, or the off-track bit that's covered in gravel, it makes it very, very difficult indeed. And that was Michael Polderman who got up high. He was running just outside 10th place, just outside the top 10. That will not have helped at all. 25 minutes have come to an end. Of course, we get 1 extra lap with the Renault Clios. You get your 25 minutes plus 1 lap. So for David Pouget, he's got to defend for 1 further lap. Third, fourth and fifth, absolutely on top of each other. 6th and 7th, hardly any great distance behind. We're talking of Pouget, Castelli, Tozic, Renault and Puccetti. Puccetti at the back of that group will be the most aggrieved. And now the pressure, surely this is the moment it cracks. David Pouget, though, gets it back and does a very neat job of coming back down. But remember, he's been warned. He's onto the final warning for track limits anymore, and he'll pick up a time penalty. But that was the pressure coming through from the chasing Gael Castelli. And those behind getting closer and closer. Next in line, Tozic, then Renault, then Puccetti. Then they have a little bit of a gap back to the car in 8th place. The driver is Compan. But here is our race leader, Anthony Girardo. The gap has come down by 0.7 of a second. This is the final of the lap of the race. Remember, it's 25 minutes plus 1 further lap. Who's going to come in third place? Oh, everybody's trying to run wide. David Pouget has decided, I'm not running wide, but I'm going to cover the inside line up the top of the hill into turn 2. But that's the tighter, slower line. Maybe there's a bit of an advantage to be gained by Gael Castelli. Maybe not. It wasn't in that case. Tucked in behind Nikolai Tozic, then Aurélien René tucked into 6th place with Puccetti, Damiano Puccetti in 7th. Any place changes, they may be coming at the front of the race. The battle of third is intense, but Finkelstein in 2nd place is getting closer and closer on this final lap to Anthony Girardo, just going out of our shot, 1st and 2nd. Girardo's hung on. Remember, his lead was 3 seconds, or the next closest thing, but now it's under a second. Well, 1.0 seconds at the moment, and Finkelstein is chasing, but oh, now, are we going to see a change for 3rd place? No, Pouget still protects it from Gael Castelli, 15 from 127. Nikolai Tozic in 5th place overall. He's going to pick up a class victory surely, unless he's spun around on this, the final lap. Looks as though Anthony Gerardo in the lead of the race has got enough down, but third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, nose to tail. Will there be a place change? I think Puget, he's got so much experience, surely can hang on. The big scare was half a lap ago, and he seemed to hold on to that. Has the chasing Gael Castelli run out of ideas? Oh, deep, deep, deep they go through the sweepers. That's turn 8, turn 9, up the slope they go, locking up. You can see the pressure on our race leader, Anthony Gerardo, locking it up, smoking tyres, but surely with just a couple of corners to go, he's got the job done. And out of the final corner, coming to find the checkered flag, it probably come under a second, 0.9 of a second. He takes victory, lights are flashing, job very well done indeed. The battle behind, Puget somehow hangs on to third place overall. Really, really good effort from him. Applause ringing up and down the pit lane. That was an entertaining race. There'll be a few cars with a little bit of a bruise on their nose, but well, that was fantastic run there from our race leader, using all his experience, and David Puget hanging on to third place, Mirror falling off his car, well, not falling off, hanging off his car. That was intense for him, but he got it done. But the man who takes maximum points, another win in the bag for Anthony Gerardo. So lots of applause for him. And a lot for the other drivers to consider. So 25 minutes plus one bonus lap, and Anthony Gerardo controlled it from start to finish. There was, of course, a safety car period. He weathered that. He got the restart absolutely spot on. No one got close enough to challenge him. But that is not just a case of a driver full of experience. That's a driver with great speed as well. Fantastic race from Alexander Finkelstein. He didn't quite have the answers to Gerardo there. No disgrace, though. Of course, Gerardo, multiple champion at this level. And so the job done, bringing it home. Excellent performance there from Anthony Gerardo. Cooling down, that would have been hot work, not because it was warm in the car necessarily, just because it was intense, but actually always had a little bit of a buffer. And as hard as Finkelstein tried, he just couldn't get close enough to get into the mix to challenge. He tried, he got under a second down at the end of the race. And I'm just noticing, there's Nikolai Tozic, who was top in the junior class. Great run from him in number 11. Just noticing that Anthony Gerardo is now victor from this driver, David Puget, because suddenly I think some penalties have been applied, and they're going to be applied to a lot of drivers. The order has been shuffled, and for number 23, that has been costly. Finkelstein, second on the track, dropped to 9th overall. Still penalties being applied, but none at all to Anthony Gerardo. He got onto his final warning, but he hung on with that, and you can see the left-hand flank of David Puget's car, a little bit crumpled, and the mirror hanging low on the door. But in fact, he thought he came home in second place. He's come third place. He's come home in second with some late application of penalties. But no doubt about the winner. It was Anthony Gerardo, led from pole position, was never headed. That makes it simple. And he's got to do it all over again tomorrow. So that was fantastic fun. As ever, a lot of stories to be told, but a few cars getting put sideways and an awful lot of people running wide. You can't help it in the heat of the battle, and some picking up penalties accordingly. So the field comes in an enormous field of car, best part of 40 starters for this Clio Cup Series race. And Anthony Gerardo controlling it from start to finish, but everyone else behind in a scrap, pretty much every corner of every single lap. Probably the only car without a bent panel on it coming in. After that, I exaggerate a little for effect there, but Anthony Gerardo, well, he can be very, very pleased indeed with the activity there. So, doing the victor's dance, Anthony Gerardo, he'll be enjoying the podium ceremony, but he'll just be heaving a sigh of relief. Hot work, and the team like it very much indeed. And he'll be looking around to see who else was going to follow him in. He knew he was chased across the line by Alexander Finkelstein, but Finkelstein's picked up that penalty. I'm just double checking, he hasn't dropped further. He's fallen from 2nd to 9th overall. Therefore, this driver, who we just seen in the background of the shot, David Puget, will come home 2nd, and Gael Castelli 3rd overall. Drivers walk around their cars. David Puget looking to see where his mirror used to be when it was connected, but a lot of pressure there. Chased home by Gael Castelli, who certainly kept him very honest indeed. But Anthony Gerardo gathering the family around. Well, great run from him. Neat and tidy. Didn't have to be challenged very much at all once he'd won that run down to the first corner. They always say pole position is the best place to start a race, but you've still got to deliver, and he did precisely that. See, even after you cross the finish line and come back to Parc Fermé, you're checking what happened to people around you. He's probably trying to find out why he got promoted to 2nd place, having come home in 3rd, but he'll have heard the news just there that Alex Finkelstein has been given a time penalty. A lot of this goes over the drivers' heads until they come into Parc Fermé. But for Anthony Gerardo, there was no doubt whatsoever. He knew nobody passed him, started from pole position, and nailed it. So, the end of a most enthralling race here, the first of 2 at Valencia. Anthony Gerardo taking victory eventually by 4.2 seconds from fellow French racer David Puget, with Alexander Finkelstein 2nd on the track, but falling down to 9th overall. And that promoted Gael Castelli to the overall podium in 3rd position. Nikolai Tozic, victor in his class, which is the junior class, 4th place overall, ahead of Damiano Puccetti and Tom Compa in 6th overall. And then Alex Rene winning the Challenger class, sorry, Aurelien Rene winning the Challenger class, just ahead of British racer Ben Colburn. And there was Alexander Finkelstein, demoted with time penalties, down to 9th overall. And Michel Polderman completing the top 10. That is for car number 10, but sitting pretty at the top. Anthony Gerardo, great job for him. Laurent Diazidus, there he is, 20th position at the top, bottom of that first timing page. He took victory in the gentleman class, so all the classes spread out there. And we still had, at the end of the race, 31 cars circulating the circuit, but a few fallers, most notably Gabriele Torelli. We saw him retire to the pits. Nicola Milan, many championship titles in his pocket, but today a DNF for him. And so, getting drivers to the podium, they say it's like herding cats, but often when a driver's full of excitement, they're waiting for the moment to come up. And I think that message in the background on that gentleman's t-shirt, just do it, that sums up overtaking manoeuvres in a championship as competitive as this. So looking back at the replay at the start, 37 cars trying to fit onto one piece of racing circuit. But from the pole position, Anthony Gerardo got away in the lead of the race, and defending 2nd place was Alex Finkelstein. And very early on, it got very, very tight indeed, with contact going down into turn 4 on the opening lap. A couple of cars going for a ride they didn't want to make across the gravel. And then there was further trouble in behind. It was always going to be Valencia, really tight, twisty circuit, and a few of the midfield runners find themselves not in the field anymore, in the gravel trap. And for Robinson, South African racer, that was very disappointing indeed, but it was no surprise the safety car came out. At the restart though, all was neat and tidy, but unfortunately look for number 1, already in the walls once, and then spun around right in front of the pack. Evasive action, but contact could not be avoided. And in behind, oh, there were some real moments. 127 out wide, but eventually for Gael Castelli, believe it or not, advanced, kept on going, came home 3rd overall. Bordaccini, well, there was push, there was shove. He was pushed into another car and shoved around. This is the 3rd place car of David Puget, super high. Gael Castelli tucked in behind. How did he get back to earth and still control the car over the curbs, over the gravel? But there were penalties to be applied. The car in 2nd place was dropped down the order, but there was no doubting Anthony Gerardo led from pole position and brought it home with 14 laps on the board. Victory for him, but he wasn't hanging around. This is him pressing on. Finkelstein chasing, both of them getting the wheels off the deck. in that really tricky middle part of the lap, but they kept it under control. Not everyone else did, but here, taking victory, delighted there, Anthony Gerardo. The car behind, however, Finkelstein fell from second with the time penalties tonight. So there's Gerardo, the dance of victory, and the two flagged in to join him in Parc Fermé. David Puget in the second position and Gael Castelli in third. Anthony Gerardo still waiting to be called up to the top step of the podium. We'll have them up in reverse order, however. And the fans chanting, great to have them in, enjoying the podium ceremony. They're not just friends and family, they're race fans too. Fantastic to have them up tight, up close, tight to all the action here at Valencia. Very wide move, the podium behind the pit lane in the paddock, and so the public can enjoy. So we're waiting for the driver who came home in third place overall, Gael Castelli. He'll be the first one up onto this Clio podium. He takes the third step, the bronze medal position, if you will. And David Puget, who probably had to fight harder than anybody else to defend his position. I thank you, he says to the crowd. Second place for him. And father and son, Anthony Gerardo and Gerardo Jr., yo! Up onto the top step and maybe even onto the shoulders there. But lovely to see, but job done supremely by Anthony Gerardo. The victor's jig. Well, plenty of primal noise from the crowd beneath the steps, so plenty of hubbub. It's a very good move. Three French drivers in the top three positions there. Gerardo first, Puget second, and Gael Castelli in third place. And the national anthem for the winning driver. So plenty of noise and excitement around the Clio Cup podium. The trophies are coming out, and Gael Castelli had to fight really hard from that. He worked his way up and up the order. He was on the track some of the times, off the track. Really exciting race. David Puget, what a defence. Thought he'd come third. Demotion of Finkelstein makes him second. He worked for that. But Anthony Gerardo, pole position is always the best place to start the race, and he controlled it from the front, controlled the safety car period as well. Got the job done, and he takes the winner's trophy. Drivers knowing what they have to do. They've all been on the top step before. They all know what they're up to. Will there be champagne? Will they get away without spraying it on each other? This time, yes, the caps into the crowd, and what a receptive crowd it is at Valencia. Great podium ceremony, lots of atmosphere. Imagine what it'd be like if we'd had a Spanish driver on the top step. But David Puget chased hard, defended hard, but Anthony Gerardo from pole position, wow, that was maximum attack. And copping him in what was second place but fell to ninth, Alexander Finkelstein in the action as well. This circuit, you take it right to the edge, and that's what both of these drivers did. But Anthony Gerardo, always in the lead of the race, got the job done. No wonder he's been a champion before, and certainly he's come here with a points lead. Gerardo chasing, he's closing the gap, and the MC certainly getting the crowd into a frenzy down there. Do you want more podium? Well, they seem to. Great hubbub. Wow. This is working the crowd. Look at that crowd. Absolute throng in the paddock here at Valencia. Fantastic to see. For so many years, podiums have been the other side of the pit building at all sorts of circuits around the world. That's the norm. This is an unusual take, but it's a very good one. Well, wasn't it fantastic? Let's see what happens again tomorrow. You know, with the Clio Cup, the racing is going to be great. But today, Anthony Gerardo closed the point lead by taking victory. Do join us tomorrow.
Si on vous demande le nom d'un club auto qui rembourse votre franchise en cas d'accident, vous pensez à qui? Roule prend le relais là où votre assurance auto s'arrête. Roule, le premier club auto qui profite à tous, à condition de ne pas passer à côté.